Well, Lila Rose went on a show called the Whatever podcast, Whatever Show. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the show, but Lila Rose, she is an American anti-abortion activist who is a good Christian woman, and she's on this show. And I thought it was really profound because her and one other guy, they're the Christian voice on this show. She's a very, traditional conservative person, and she is the voice of Christianity on this show with these people that are just completely debased people. So there's one woman on the show who she calls herself the OnlyFans Pastor. OnlyFans, if anybody doesn't know, which hopefully nobody cares to know what this is, but I guess it's basically a website where it's an adult website where any woman can go on, create her own account, and then people can come on and view her. I mean, this is it's debauchery here. This is debauchery. Okay, so Lila Rose, she is the voice of Christian. She's the Christian voice on this show with I think most of these other girls, they're either strippers or they're on OnlyFans or whatever. I mean, these are women that are not living a good life. Okay. So I thought it was profound though that when the OnlyFans pastor talks, that's her, I guess, her title or whatever, on because she used to be a pastor and then she divorced her husband and took her 3 kids away because she wasn't happy and fulfilled in her marriage. But the advice that Lila Rose gave, I thought was just so profound. I thought it was so telling of where we are in Christian marriage today. I'll bring up the show. You can hear the OnlyFans pastor and then hear the advice that Lila gives.
So for me, I've been raised in the indoctrination that my job as a woman is to please my male partner, my husband. And as a woman, I was not given pleasure because it didn't have to be reciprocal. Getting divorced and discovering my sexuality, I learned my pleasure is just as important of a right. And so now I get to have that with different people, find out what I like, what I don't like, have different experiences to find out what turns me on, what turns me off. And that's healing, to know yourself and to learn yourself and to feel good with your pleasure and not limit it because of what someone else thinks you should do with it.
Nick, was that presented as Christianity to you, that the man just gets
This is
pleasure,
Lila.
the woman doesn't get any pleasure?
I mean, I think it was more caught than taught. I think they would say it's equal, but in practice, it was my job as a woman to support the man and whatever he wants. And so you just learn this messaging of, well, what I want isn't as important. Though if I confronted them, they say, no, you're just as important, but not in practice.
But you didn't experience that in your marriage, it sounds like.
Not the way I think it should have been. Correct.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I think an authentically Christian marriage, the man gives his life for the woman and absolutely equal sexual pleasure. It's very important so I'm sorry that you didn't experience that in your marriage.
Yeah, thank you.
And so the message from Lila Rose, who is the conservative voice on this show of people that are just lost in debauchery here. The message is, I'm sorry that you didn't experience equality in your marriage the way that you thought you should have. I'm sorry that your desires weren't fulfilled the way that they should have been fulfilled, because in a Christian marriage, your husband should give his life for you. Okay. Now that's based on Ephesians chapter 5. Now what Lila is saying is that your husband should give his life to fulfill your every desire. Now that is not Christian marriage. That's not Christian marriage. I heard that, and I'm sure that I would line up with Lila Rose with anti-abortion. I'm sure I'd be on the front lines with her. I'm sure we'd be 100% aligned with that. But what she says this to this OnlyFans girl who is like lost in sin. I mean, she divorced her husband. She took her 3 kids. Now she is doing this OnlyFans thing. She's in like all these crazy, I don't even know if you'd call them relationships. I mean, if you listen to the show, this woman has completely lost her mind in the things that she's doing, threesomes, all this crazy stuff. And Lila Rose, the conservative Christian voice on this show, says, I'm sorry that you experienced this in your marriage, that your every desire was not fulfilled in your marriage by your husband. You're like, what are you talking about? She even said, is that not what you experienced? And the woman was like, well, yeah, he didn't meet my desires like I thought he should have. What? 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 So I think in the subtext, then he tried to meet her desires, and he just, I guess he couldn't do it good enough. So boom, divorce, we're out of here. You're done. You're done. Why? How sad? How sad is that the Christian voice on this show says, "Oh, I'm sorry that you experienced that in your marriage, that you walked away from the church and from Christianity because your husband failed to fulfill your every desire in the marriage, because he should give his life for you." Oh, I couldn't believe it. Well, anyway, hey, if you're liking this content, give me a like, give me a comment on here. Does anybody have any comments on this? I just I couldn't, it just blew me away with this. And I'm sure Lila is a great person, but to give that kind of advice, it just blew. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what Christian man can live up to this standard of, well, if you have a Christian marriage, well, you must meet your wife's every desire that she has. And if you don't, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, you got to divide, I guess you have to end it. Like, what? Oh man, we got to get this turned around. We got to get this turned around. I don't know how we got to this point in our country, or even just in the state of Christianity. I don't know how we got here, but even with all of that, Christ is winning. He is building his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Until next time, this is the Post Millennial Man.